On today's episode, we're answering the question, no, we're not, because I'm on the wrong damn
I
outline.
know. I've heard these stories. I have truly heard so many of them, because the reality is when you do things like that, your team talks, right? When you don't treat your team well, they talk. And so, and not talk in like a gossip way, but talk in like a, how do I deal with this? How do I, have these conversations? How do I continue with this work? This doesn't feel ethical. It doesn't feel fair. That's kind of when I say they talk, that's really what I mean when I say they talk. So this is not an uncommon thing in the online business space. And I almost think, as somebody who has worked in traditional business and online business, I almost think it's worse in online business than it is in the traditional
100%.
workspace. And that's just anecdotal. That's just me, like boots on the ground research. I don't have any hard data to prove that, but
I just read an article about a week ago that had this whole comparison in it. And it was, it was on, I think it was on Medium. And it was a whole article where the person said, look, if I spent 10 years honing my craft or 15 years honing my craft, I have taken multiple courses, I've done this, that, and the other to achieve my level of, whatever I'm able to do, I would be remunerated in a corporate position at a different level. That would be all taken into account. My education and my work experience would be taken into account, and I wouldn't be starting at, ground level. But in the online, and we wouldn't expect those people to come in and just, work for free. But in the online space, Alison and I have had this multiple times where somebody has said, hey, why don't you show me why don't you create an example of your writing based on my sales page or something like that, completely work for free to kind of earn your spot. And that doesn't work. It's really, it really feels like it's insulting. Personally,
it's offensive.
Yes, it is offensive.
It's predatory and violent.
Additionally, I agree with you completely. And additionally, think about the composition of who works in the online environment.
Women.
More so women, more so mothers, more so people, in countries, developing countries as well, that are trying to fill those gaps. We don't have all the data, guys. We don't have all the data.
But it's a lot of people who side hustle to try and get out of bad financial situations. It's people who are eager to make a better life for themselves, their family, their community. And so they end up in situations where that predatory behavior, it allows them to be more easily taken advantage of. And when I was first starting out, that was me. I was in a situation where I needed money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I allowed myself to be treated a certain way, doormat, because I needed it. That $500 was make or break. That was half of rent money at the time. So it's very frustrating when we're told to know your worth and charge your worth, but then not be paid our worth or offered our worth. And so,
when the same coaches that pay you terribly are the ones out there telling you to
raise your prices. Yeah.
Raise your prices and quote unquote own your worth, charge your worth or whatever. I think it's actually a perfect storm of things that are happening. So I said it's predatory and violent. Everyone's like, whoa, that's like a bold statement. and it is. And also at the same time, I'm not sure everybody realizes how they're colluding with that. So I think we have a perfect storm, and I'm going to run you by a couple of things that I was jotting down as you were talking, and like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So first of all, we have a lot of people running businesses who don't actually know how to run businesses. Then we have, to a lot of degree, this is a startup culture and a startup environment. And as much as people don't know how to run a business, they don't know how to run a startup. And I think there's like a handful of people who or maybe a handful, maybe 2 handfuls of people who find the internet and just fall in love with the greed and the grift that is in the online space. And they don't see people as people. They see people as dollar signs, either one way or another, whether it's through sales or through human capital. And I think then what happens is we have people who are learning from people who don't know. I always see this in the copywriting space where somebody is teaching NLP in copywriting, but they don't say they're teaching NLP in copywriting. So then we have a whole bunch of people who have NLP in their copywriting, but don't know it. Right. So it's like kind of that thing. And then we have someone's going to accept that level of pay. And there's a lack of regulation, transparency, and parity when it comes to pay. And I remember a while ago, and this is just like, I don't have the link, I'm so sorry, but there was this video with Gabrielle Union and Ellen Pompeo. She's the woman from Grey's Anatomy, right?
Yep.
And I think there was like one other person, and they were basically talking about how in that space, like if somebody doesn't take that role, like the cheap role that they offer the women, and they offer to them with like, but there's going to be exposure and this is going to be good for your career. And like, how many times have we heard that in the online space too, right?
Who else was in the video? Ellen Pompeo and who?
I can't remember who else was in the video. It was Gabrielle Union, Ellen Pompeo. Maybe it was. Okay.
I'm going to grab that link. I got it. I found it.
Yeah. And they were talking about how when the other person, when there's like a lack of transparency that this is happening, and like, I'm just going to give the example of like Ellen Pompeo is just like, okay, I'll take that role for this amount. Meanwhile, she didn't realize that Gabrielle Union was like, you need to pay me more. Right. And so by talking about this and having transparency here, we can all uplift each other and really start to take a stand for these things. But if we don't talk about them, and they keep happening. And of course, there's always the person who needs to put food on the table and things like that, right? Like, I don't want to discount that situation either. But for me, I think that's really where a lot of this is coming from. But predominantly, it's people who do not know how to run businesses, teaching other people how to run businesses.
Okay. Are you laughing at how red my face is? Yeah.
And we're still recording. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. We got a blooper reel. Can we stop recording?